I think we can start. People are still joining us, but it's time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this extremely timely talk. And thank you for sharing your time with us. I am particularly thankful for CEFTUS, Center for Turkey Studies, providing this opportunity in cooperation, allow me to say in traditional cooperation, with Ahval News Online. We have cooperated before in many occasions. From time to time, CEFTUS and Ahval jointly have visited crucial subjects to shed light on issues related with Turkey and its policies and current affairs. My name is Yavuz Baydar and I am the editor of Ahval, a trilingual independent news site which recently celebrated its third birthday. We at Ahval cover exclusively and extensively the story of Turkey, a very exciting story, as you can imagine, also by podcasts and video series. Do follow us through ahvalnews.com or mobile apps, Ahval News. Now, to the subject and speaker. For a very long time, the relations between the European Union and Turkey have been that of love and hate. They have never stabilized properly due to an intense, bumpy ride, road clashes, foul play, hopes and disappointments, deep misunderstandings, ill and hidden intentions, and in Turkey's case, the counter roles staged by dark forces marred by anti-European and anti-Western sentiments. The past 2 decades, very critical ones, we have witnessed much of those elements at play, especially since 2005, when the accession negotiations began for real. The advances of Turkey into the domain of the EU were soon replaced by reversals to the opposite direction. And I'm sure our speaker will walk us through those territories tonight. But where we are now at this very date, at the end of 2020, is marked as a turning point as a result of a very dramatic series of developments. On the eve of the European Union General Council meeting due on December 10 and 11, 2 days from now, Turkey and the entire EU are face to face to each other in a mood to be described as deeply mistrustful, not to say acrimonious. At one side, we have Turkey, which by any measure to be applied is farther than ever away from Copenhagen criteria, even from Maastricht criteria in some aspects, and also on whose epicenter is President Erdogan, whose policy choices seem to have brought the traditional relations to the brink of paralysis, if not collapse. On the other side stand the EU, some of those members feel threatened by Turkey's foreign policy decisions and persistent offensive moves, and some other members voice concern about what they see as patronage of Islamism, jihadism, and ultranationalism stemming from Ankara, whereas some other members remain concerned about the potential influx or re-influx of refugees into the European Union territory. Then, of course, there are many economic and financial concerns too. Energy issues and military expenditures, etc., are on the table. The unusual core of the current standoff is surely the point in which the EU has come to the point of employing sanctions to a negotiating partner, albeit it is on the paper. From this, we can start our talk, I think. Are we, as some EU officials say, at the watershed between Turkey and the EU? And what are we to expect in near future, in midterm? Also considering the fact that the USA is now preparing for a new presidency takeover with the aim of domestic and global restoration of the world disorder, with the focus on democracy, rule of law, and human rights. So I'm now proud to present our speaker, Professor Cengiz Aktar. Akhtar is a professor of political science, presently teaching at the University of Athens, ECPA. He is a former director at the United Nations specializing in asylum policies, known to be also one of the leading advocates of Turkey's integration into the EU. He was the chair of European Studies at Bahçeşehir University in Istanbul, and In 1999, he initiated a civil initiative for Istanbul's candidacy for the title of European Capital of Culture. Istanbul successfully held the title in 2010. He also headed the initiative called European Movement 2002, which aimed at putting pressure on the lawmakers to speed up political reforms necessary to begin the negotiation phase with the EU. In addition to EU integration policies, his research focuses on politics of memory regarding ethnic and religious minorities, and on the history of political centralism, and on international refugee law. His latest book, very fresh one, Le Malaise Turc, The Turkish Malaise, was published in November in France. Just before handing it over to Cengiz, let me say a few words about the order. He will speak about slightly more than an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, roughly. The remaining 45 minutes, we will have the Q&A session. And you can start sending your questions from the end of the first 60 or 70 minutes in writing. The entire session will be recorded and also streamed live through Facebook. And also at the end of the session, we will invite all participants for a so-called family snapshot, family photo. But feel free to take part. Otherwise, you are free not to. Those who do not want to, just shut down your cameras. As simple as that. So, floor is yours, Cengiz.
Thank you, Yavuz. Thank you. Good evening to all, and good afternoon to some. I see that there are attendants from the United States. Welcome to all. Let me start with the hot topic. I mean, you get never bored with Turkey. I would like to start with the state of political play. And of course, by Turkey, Ankara, and constant and permanent declarations regarding what will be happening Thursday and Friday in Brussels, the European Council meeting. Ankara is alternating defiant declarations and deeds. Nav taxes are continuously issued. The aircrafts are overflowing the Aegean Islands, and Ankara is everywhere and talking tough. And the search vessels they are 5. They are turning around in the Eastern Mediterranean and elsewhere. But alternating, as I said, these deeds and these tough deeds with a sort of dialogue, but unfortunately, which is not followed by any concrete step. So that brings ashore a very serious credibility problem. No one believes Ankara anymore, and Ankara itself actually is not very much interested in changing its course. I think that this is something very important to understand. It's not just talk. But when it comes to the concrete deeds of this so-called dialogue, be it domestically or outside the country, well, Ankara is not interested because, I mean, structurally speaking, Ankara is not ready to dialogue anymore. You know, this is the first party. Let's now have a look to the other party, Europe. So where is Europe on all this? Of course, they are nice talkers, do-gooders, but they are now in minority, and Ankara watchers, be it in Brussels or in the capitals of the member states, are getting more and more nervous about Ankara. And but what is new is that dissensions among the member states of the European Union are now more and more disclosed. This is something new. It was not happening before. You know, the council meetings, the European Council meetings are rather, you know, closed meetings, and no one talks afterwards. The dissensions are not out in the public. And, I mean, we hear, you know, here and there that some the things happen, but nothing really serious. But this time, I'm afraid, and you probably, as you are following this mess, well, you are more and more, I mean, you are hearing that there are problems, and these problems are now in the daylight, and this is new. I mean, there is a group of countries who have been blocking every single attempt to quote unquote punish Ankara. I mean, this group of countries is led by Germany, but also Italy, Spain, Malta, Hungary, time to time Poland, and this is the core group. I mean, others may join in or not, but and on the other side, there are at least 5 countries who are adamant to give strong messages, and I mean, these are the ones who are talking sanctions to Ankara, led by France, Austria, Greece, Cyprus, and the Netherlands. So within this framework, I think we should bear in mind, and we should especially underline a new factor, a new element that I call the Merkel factor, the Angela Merkel factor. I mean, Germany, as you know, is holding the EU's term presidency until the end of the year, and was quite excited about this presidency, taking, you know, all sorts of initiatives, and in particular initiatives regarding Turkey and Greece in connection with their arch-old feuds in the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean. Well, it failed. I mean, it's a total fiasco. I'm not even, there's no use to go into details. Heiko Maas himself is recognizing the failure of this German honest brokership between Athens and Ankara. I mean, it was right from the beginning a mission impossible, and it ended up where it had to end up. But the Merkel factor is something else. I mean, it's deeper than this. Angela Merkel has always kind of cherished, if not, you know, protected Ankara, and that's not new. Actually, it started long time ago, and probably she is the head of one of the most important governments of the European Union, who has paid visits to Ankara at a record level. She came to Ankara 10 times during her tenure. It's unseen by any other head of state or government from a member state. And knowing how Ankara was evolving and behaving in those days, it is really fascinating and noteworthy to see the chancellor, you know, and her interest in Turkey and and what is happening there. Let me give you just one example. I mean, she came in October 2015. Turkey was under shock, under awe in those days after a very bloody summer, after the elections that were lost for the first time with the ruling party in June 2015. The country was waking up every morning to some awful news about mass killings here and there. And the aim was, of course, to frighten the population, so to vote again for the ruling party, which happened exactly the way it was foreseen on the 1st of November. She came few days before this, repeated elections in 2015. That was, I mean, for the Turkish bureaucrats, to Turkish Democrats, sorry, not the Turkish bureaucrats were probably very happy, but Turkish Democrats were shocked with this, open support to the regime. So since then, Germany and Merkel keep appeasing. You remember appeasement, 1938 to Munich? Exactly the same way the French and the Brits were, appeasing the invading Adolf Hitler. It's very similar, actually. Calming down, all the time finding arguments and excuses to the deeds of Ankara. I will give you a very recent example about the way she approaches Ankara, Erdogan, and in general, what is happening in Turkey. That was in early October, you remember, and Lukashenko in Belarus had this very controversial and still controversial elections. The EU was unhappy. I won't go into details, but very quickly there was a common understanding that the EU should now come with sanctions to against Belarus and Lukashenko, and which happened, by the way. And the day the EU was deciding about these sanctions against the ruler, the last communist ruler, as he's called, of Europe, well, it was the Turkey was on the table as well. I mean, the sanctions against Turkey were on the table. Well, Merkel came out of the meeting and said, of course, the Belarus sanctions happened, and the Turkey sanctions didn't happen. So she said, I'm quoting, of course, it's not exactly the words she used at the time, but she was saying, I'm pretty convinced that these sanctions will help those Democrats in Minsk, in Belarus, who are fighting for more democracy in Belarus. So that tells you a lot, the way she looks at, at Belarus, and the way she looks to Turkey. Despite these, soothing and calming down and appeasing policy, which is not a policy, of course. We know what happened after 1938. The same may happen with Turkey. Well, there was a news in Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung this today, I think, telling us that Germany is more and more cornered among its peers regarding sanctions against Turkey, which is understandable, of course, because or thanks to the diplomatic action by the Greek government the last months, I should say. Well, I mean, making it very clear to the entire world that Germany now should stop selling arms to Ankara, and you know, these sort of things were not you know, coming in the picture within the EU meetings or at the margins of the EU meetings. Now it's out everywhere. Transparency is perfect, and these sort of meetings should have always been transparent anyhow. But now, with you know, the fingers pointed at this group of arms sellers, I repeat, Germany together with Italy and Spain, well, it is becoming more and more difficult to skip and to continue to appease the deeds and the practices and the threats of Ankara. This being said, of course, it is still extremely difficult to guess which kind of sanctions may be decided upon Thursday at the dinner or Friday in the morning at the plenary. But in any case, you know, sanctions would hurt Ankara. I mean, this is why they have now developed, as I said in the beginning, a quote unquote positive rhetoric about the strategic future of Turkey in the EU. They are desperate to avoid these sanctions. That's for sure. But with or without sanctions, you know, Turkish economy is or has been decoupled from European economy since some time now. So the trend, the Kondratiev type of, you know, the big picture, the trend is that Turkey is although still very, you know, has as the main trading partner and investing partner Europe, Turkish economy and the Turkish way of governance is somewhere else now. This is why I used the formula of decoupling. So now, after this short state of political play, let me turn to the technicalities a bit and try to locate which European institution is where when it comes to Turkey. Let's start with the European Parliament. You know, it's a parliament, it talks much, and it should talk, and it has always been very vocal and freely so the last 3-4 years, pointing at the shortcomings of Ankara. Well, very recently actually, a resolution came out in the parliament regarding this Varosha move by Ankara. Varosha is in the occupied part of Cyprus in the north. It is not even part of the breakaway republic of Turkish, you know, north. It's a military zone actually. So and it was closed. It's a closed area since 1974. It's a ghost city. So the parliament took the initiative to denounce actually the move by the Turkish authorities. Erdogan himself was there. He went there at the occasion of the declaration in 1983 of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. In my opinion, he went there to bury this Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, because the freshly elected president of the island, Mr. Tatar, was waiting for him at the, normally he's at the same level as Erdogan, of course, but of course he's not. And Erdogan was there as a viceroy, and you know, telling what to do, telling what to do, and acting as really the real ruler of the area. So the parliament took the initiative to denounce this, and in the past, this sort of motions and you know, resolutions, mainly by the Cypriot and the Greek members of the European Parliament, MEPs, you know, were not taken, I should say, seriously. This time, it passed with an overwhelming majority. That was a landmark resolution in that sense. It was new and extremely important. So Sanchez Amor, the Turkey rapporteur, is preparing a quite harsh report for February, and the report was discussed. That is about the relationship between EU and Turkey. It's a regular report as of the parliament, and the first draft was discussed at the Committee for Foreign Affairs of the Parliament, and it's extremely you know, critical, and actually calling for you know, for the end of the negotiations, which have de facto ended, by the way. I will come to it, and but also calling for another you know, partnership, a new type of partnership with Turkey. Of course, there is no such formulas. You know, there's membership, and there are others. And Turkey is since long time another country. It is, and it's a third country, probably at the same, you know, level as Egypt or any other you know, neighboring country with which Europe is dealing or has to deal. So the European Commission, the European Council, sorry, the European Council, or the Council of the European Union. Well, I gave you a snapshot about you know, how divided they are regarding Turkey when it comes to the sanctions. But when it comes to the formal relations with Turkey, i.e., you know, the so-called negotiations or the customs union, which is the most substantial bond that still exists between the EU and Turkey, and thirdly, the visa exemption for the nationals, the citizens of the Turkey. These are three key substantial matters. Well, the European Council is really far away. I mean, it is you know, it's paper pushing, and since the 26th June 2018, you will see now I will send it to you. I should send this. Yes, this key, the decision that I invite you to read of 2 days later, when Turkey the elections of the 24th of June, where Mr. Erdogan was elected as an full executive president, together with the parliamentary elections. 2 days later, the council took this decision that you read, where it notes that Turkey has been moving further away from the EU, and the accession negotiations have therefore effectively come to a standstill, and no further chapters can be considered for opening. So this is the reality of the so-called negotiations. I mean, they are on the paper, but when it comes to to the daily practice, it's dead. The decision of June 2018 won't change, of course, because it needs unanimity, and this decision was taken in June 2018 by unanimity. But to reverse it, it will be impossible. With the council, Turkey was unusually very high on the agenda, both of the General Affairs Council, the Foreign Affairs, and the European Council itself. I mean, it has become over the past year a permanent agenda item, actually. I mean, it's quite seldom, and in a very negative fashion. I remember those days a few years ago, 6, 7 years, no, 10 years ago, when we were constantly talking about positive agenda. I mean, the EU was trying to develop a positive agenda with the Turkish officials, the NGOs, and the civil society was trying to get involved to impress and to really, achieve something and, save or salvage the elections that 10 years ago. So unfortunately, all these things not only failed, I mean, these attempts, this so-called positive agenda shifted entirely or has been transformed to become what I call a negative agenda. Both in the capitals of the member states and in the Brussels today, the reality is that when people hear the words Erdogan and Turkey, well, they jump. I mean, it has such a negative connotation that probably since 1959, when the first time Turkey and the European Economic Community at the time has shaken hands, and 59, God, this is a long time ago, I don't recall any, I was a child at the time, but in the meantime, I don't recall any, any period, despite several, many odds, especially the coup d'etats in Turkey. Well, I don't recall a period that is that negative. This is why I preferred, I suggested to our moderator, Yavuz Baydar, to name this talk, to title this talk From Post-Candidacy to a Permanent Crisis Era. But it is something, it's really something new that is happening. I mean, Turkey is a candidate in the paper, but nothing really happens. This is why I call it post-candidacy. And this post-candidacy now is shifting towards, open crisis in the relationship. So the decision that you have on your group chat is fundamental, and it will remain there. But it is, we should also know that Turkey doesn't appear anymore in the relevant documents of the European Council regarding its work plan, for instance. You know, the trio, the present trio is composed of Germany, Portugal, and Slovenia. Portugal is taking over on the 1st of January and Slovenia on the 1st of July next year. So the trio has an 18 months work plan. When you, it's available. I mean, when you look at the work plan, Turkey doesn't appear as within the framework of the enlargement policy anymore. So it's not just you know, a negative development per se. It is a negative development which is enshrined in the EU documents. You know, you are following the Europe, what is happening with the financial framework, as it's called, or the EU's budget, 2021-2027, the 7 years budget, which is for the time being blocked by Hungary and Poland. Well, in this in this you know, budget, in the envelope, Turkey is, of course, you know, mentioned, but contrary to the so-called Western Balkan 6, the WB6 states, the candidates and the future candidates, not all are full candidates yet. Turkey is not, first of all, mentioned together with them as enlargement country, and the funding that is allocated for these countries do not take into account Turkey. So the so-called IPA funds, the instrument for pre-accession funds, which are quite substantial, it's billions. Regarding Turkey, the document says it will be considered as an ad hoc manner, which means that there are no allocation, automatic allocation for Turkey per se, and the council will decide according to the developments. So pretty open. As for, but this is not a new development, actually. I mean, it is just taking note of the last period, the previous budgetary term, which is coming to an end in few days. The 7 years, you know, financial perspective, 2014-2020. In which Turkey was allocated 4.5 billion euro for to prepare itself for accession. Well, only 10% of this amount has been used because there was no project. I mean, Turkey, I mean, the Turkish bureaucracy and the government was not capable of developing projects to, you know, to tap these funds. They are, you know, subventions. I mean, they are. It's no credit. I mean, they're free, and there's no reimbursement for these funds, but only 10%. Moreover, some 1.3 billion were cut in the course of the last year. You know, as a response to the negative developments in Ankara, be it in connection with the non-compliance with the so-called Copenhagen criteria, or the mistreatment, or if not, the annihilation of the rule of law in the country, or simply non-compliance with the so-called acquis communautaire, that is the corpus of the laws and regulations of the EU which all member states and the future member states are compelled to apply. So this is in a nutshell, the situation within the European Council. Now let's have a final look at the European Commission, because these funds that I just mentioned are administered by the Commission, both in Brussels and in Ankara. Well, the Commission, frankly, is pushing papers regarding Turkey, and since some time now, being at the Turkey desk in Brussels, it's not very conducive for one's career if you are if that person is an eager bureaucrat to climb the grades of the EU bureaucracy. So nothing really happens, be it in Ankara or in Brussels, when it comes to Turkey's negotiations. So, but there is another important topic that I mentioned next to the negotiations, which actually go hands in hands, and it's the customs union. The customs union is, I repeat, the most substantial and important bond that exists since 1996 between Turkey and the EU. And it became a bit obsolete over years with the arrival of the new member states of Central and Eastern Europe and the free trade agreements that the EU has concluded with third countries like South Korea, for instance. So the advantages that Turkey at the time, that is 1996, and has gathered, well, have been eroded, upon time. And this customs union needs, since years, to be revised. Well, in your Zoom group chat, the same council decision of 26 June 2018, well, tells us that no further work towards the modernization of the EU-Turkey customs union is foreseen. So it's not just the negotiations, it's also the modernization of the customs union. It's out of the question for the time being, and given the negative climate that exists regarding Turkey in Brussels and elsewhere. Same problem with the visa exemption. That was, again, another mission impossible. Some EU, bureaucrats, overexcited and over-optimistic about this carrot, had developed the idea of some sticks, so to allow the Turkish citizen a visa-free travel. It, of course, didn't work because the sticks were rejected simply by Ankara, like all conditions, which goes with any, EU-inspired action towards Turkey. So this visa exemption has become, a talk of the town in those days. But nowadays, not even, no one mentions it, especially during this pandemic. But unrelated to the pandemic, I think no European country, despite their obligations vis-à-vis the Schengen Treaty has the luxury to allow, for a number of political reasons, internal and external, the Turkish citizen visa-free travel, which otherwise is, of course, is the visa-free travel, like the Ukrainian or Belarusian or any other, neighboring country, is the right of the Turkish citizens by definition. But in practice, it looks extremely difficult to implement and to put in place. So the last 10 minutes, or before shifting to the Q&A, I would like to mention 5 key points that are that the Europeans, especially those who are still talking about the dialogue within the EU fora with Turkey, those who are still trying to appease Turkey, I would like to give you 5 key points that they are considering openly or covertly, to argue with their position. So the first one, I think it's related to the NATO membership. I mean, antagonizing Turkey, ostracizing Turkey, or rejecting Turkey, whatever, and therefore through sanctions, etc. I mean, but it's an overall, action anyhow. So in some circles, in some European capitals, Berlin is most probably one of them. Pushing Turkey in the laps of Mr. Putin is a disaster scenario, and so excluding Turkey from the EU, institutions might have a, indirect negative effect in the anti-European and anti-Western course of the country. This analysis is developed, and it's certainly one of the key points that is taken into consideration when the sanctions or other punishments come, on the table of the European decision makers. The second issue is, we mentioned this, is the trade. And there are 23,000 EU companies working in Turkey, 23,000. They are either direct EU companies or, with, capital participation. And the majority, of course, are German, 7,300 actually, 3,000 Dutch companies, 1,500 Italian companies, etc. So, okay, I mean, in the 138 billion yearly, trade volume, the share of Turkey in the trade of EU is peanuts, but the share of EU in the trade of Turkey is huge. I mean, Turkey is much more dependent on its commercial relationship to the EU than the other way around. Nevertheless, nowadays, 27,000 EU companies, no one wants to risk any reaction, especially by this nervous Mr. Erdogan, towards these companies. So they are rather cautious with that. And not to mention the arms trade that I mentioned in the beginning. That is, of course, a very juicy, trade, which still going on. The third element is the refugee policing. The refugee policing by Turkey, despite threats that are unleashed and actually put in the practice against against Greece through the land border a few months ago. Well, this refugee policing and the agreement between Ankara and Brussels of March 2016 is still something many European countries would like to keep as such, despite, I repeat, all odds and the negative, actions and talks by Ankara against it. Fourthly, some countries are at unease with their Turkish or Turkish origin populations. They, especially in Germany, but also France, Belgium, the Netherlands, they don't want to provoke them, by pushing Ankara around. And this is an element in the discussions that happens among the Europeans. And fifthly, and I think this is this is a point, this is a concern which is never openly uttered, but it's very much there. I think the Europeans are dead afraid of Turkey imploding and becoming, another Syria, but this time multiplied by, I don't know what, 10, 20 times, and to create a huge, disequilibrium and mass migration towards Europe through a civil war. This is a nightmare scenario, of course, the bleakest of the scenarios, but the ways, the way things are developing, especially in the economic front in Turkey, this 700 plus billion US dollar, economy cannot, function with Qatari money or, peanuts coming from here and there. It needs a proper, capital injection, and this capital is not there. So sooner or later, Turkish economy is really running the risk of a very serious collapse. So this scenario is very much there, together, of course, with the failure of some, at least, of the foreign adventures, especially in Libya, but also in Syria, which is pure cost, and the only quote-unquote bright development was recently is Nagorno-Karabakh, where the Turkish military were actively involved in the battle against Armenia and the Nagorno-Karabakh forces. So I think we have enough food for talk after this an hour, the indications that I have shared with you. Yavuz, I think
yes. Thank you, Cengiz, for this wide-angled expose, and you walked us through the state of relations. And of course, many questions arise from your analysis. Before opening this up to the questions from the public, from the participants, I have a couple of questions before we lead this into an open discussion, perhaps. One has to do with the statements from Josep Borrell, and Josep Borrell's statement that the relations are at the watershed, is sort of a crossroads description, but also Charles Michel, the president of the European Council, talked about cat and mouse game, which is quite unusual to be placed in the mouths of European Union officials regarding this. And that leaves many people, even the learned ones, wondering what exactly actually is the end game of Erdogan administration, with what Charles Michel calls cat and mouse game, especially with the focus on what's been taking place in the southeastern parts of the European Union territory, Cyprus, Greece, etc. What are the dynamics, if any, maybe multiple dynamics, that lead the Erdogan administration into this direction? How can we explain this?
Well, I mean, frankly, I mean, when we look at this, as I mentioned in the very beginning of my talk, I say that, Ankara alternating, the harsh deeds with, sweet talk time to time, but which is never followed by any concrete deeds. I mean, this tells us how, ad hoc is the Ankara's, European policy. I mean, it's on a daily basis. I said, and I repeat, they would hate the idea of sanctions for sure. I mean, they don't need another, another slap on the face in the, in addition to what is already going on on the economy. Plus now the the side effects of the pandemic in Turkey. I would like to remind the listeners that contrary to EU countries, including the candidates, Turkey won't receive any any help from Brussels in connection with the economic consequences of the pandemic, for instance. So they don't really, they are quite, nervous about the sanctions. But I mean, it's a daily. I mean, it's ad hoc. It's their decisions and the way they are dealing with it. It tells me that I mean, the policymakers there, they are lost, actually. I think it's a good point here to remind, the listeners and the participants that the Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs actually, is no more. The Turkey's foreign policy, including the EU relations, is run directly by some, mavericks and lunatics in the presidential palace, and unfortunate. And we see, in the content of the sentences of the way, things are developing, the missions that are taking place, the declarations about the EU. So it's all, I mean, it's the Turkish foreign ministry is not involved anymore in all these things. So it's really, I would say, it's clumsy and sometimes it's childish, I should say.
I see. Also, regarding the apparent and ongoing divisions within the EU regarding Turkey policies, what is the driving factors behind France, which is openly sort of displaying itself differently than what Germany, for example, stands for regarding the relationships with its neighbor?
it's an important point. You know, both countries, I mean, the German Christian Democrats and the French Christian Democrats, although they are not called like this in France, but let's call it the center right in France. They never liked the idea of Turkey becoming an EU country. I mean, they are saying this since years. And recently, Emmanuel Macron made it very clear to Erdogan himself that we should now stop with this nonsense of the negotiations. You know, Germany never said that, but they put it in the governmental plan of action that Turkey will never, ever become an EU member. So, but Germany, I mean, contrary to Germany, France went one step ahead and, you know, took took the initiative to recognize not only, you know, a negative relationship, or actually, or, you know, something which was not really going well. The same happened to Slovakia, for instance, in 1998. There was a crisis between, you know, Bratislava and, you know, European capitals. You know, it was solved. I mean, but that was not, I mean, France recognized the fact, you know, named the fact that it was more than an accident. And Turkey not only, you know, was not only, you know, getting away from Europe and European values, standards, norms, etc., but turning against them and developing a new paradigm, which was, you know, openly anti-European and anti-West. And there, I think we should bear in mind the 200 years old westernization of the Ottoman Empire and Turkey, which the new government now is challenging. And I think this sort of analysis is developed now in France and some other countries also, like Austria, for instance. And so it's more than, you know, a road accident in the way towards the EU membership. It's more than this. It's deeper than this, and there is a key and the fundamental anti-Western and anti-European, you know, dynamic that is taking place in Ankara.
The questions are starting to come in. Thank you for them. Please send your questions. Cengiz is here to respond to them. One point, final point before I start conveying to you in questions, Cengiz. There are also on the outside, you gave a thorough description of what's been taking place inside the EU and also in Ankara. Also, the observers are divided. What strikes me in your analysis is the dosage of what I call realism. When one sees and looks at some parts of the reports or observations or analysis of the current standoff, some of the think tankers or pundits often tend to talk about reset, sort of giving advice to both sides, and some of them tend to paint a rather rosy picture, as if relations are at the stage of still a reparable state. How do you see that? How realistic should one get regarding this at this stage?
Well, I mean, these people, and they have they have a representative now at the highest possible level. Is Borrell. I mean, Borrell is one of them, definitely. This is their pundit, and this sort of so-called analysis, by appeasers, resetters, or call them wherever you like, but I mean, they exist since long time, actually, Then this is I mean, I don't know how to qualify them really. It's actually these people are telling us, let's sit and talk and discuss and negotiate with a totalitarian country. This is the bottom line. This is what they are telling us. And without, doubting a second that the party in question, I mean, the Ankara in that case, is not interested in talking, in the terms offered or suggested by these, dialoguers, resetters, and appeasers. And this is what Heiko Maas was telling Enrico saying the entire world on Monday. He said, we are trying the dialogue and we failed. And he keeps saying, and we are interested in the dialogue. I mean, dialogue for dialogue, but I mean, there has been no dialogue from the other side. So I mean, it's two for tango, So I think it's there is a fundamental, substantial problem there. That all these people, maybe sometimes in good faith, after all, dialogue, peace, and conflict resolution, these are important, notions, concepts, etc. But so these, maybe they are acting in good faith, but frankly, I mean, they should ask who the partner is, and try to understand the very nature of the Turkish regime and their deep contradictions and their deep, I would say, doctrines. This is why I mention anti-Western and anti-European.
See, okay, now time for questions coming in. One participant is wondering if one can make observations or only questions. Observations are also welcome, because those observations may also obviously require some commentary from Cengiz. So please do so. So first one is this. It's from Ismail Izzi. The question is: there should be no illusions. The West has diminishing influence over Turkey and must prepare for a worst-case scenario for the West, in which Turkey joins an anti-West alliance in the not-so-distant future. With regard to Turkey's geopolitical considerations or withdrawal of the US from the Middle East and the subsequent return of Russia have changed regional security dynamics. Germany's weakness regarding Russia and Nord Stream 2, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, appear brighter for the people of Turkey. What can the West offer to the Turkish people which will coerce them to a pro-Western orientation?
I mean, it's very quickly. I mean, it's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the Shanghai Six, as it has become. They started with 5 countries. I mean, first of all, I mean, there's no way to compare it to the European Union. It's an intergovernmental body, and its main aim was to avoid any hot clash between China and Russia in the Central Asian huge resources area, and it works quite well. Its 2 official languages are Russian and Chinese, and one key task of this organization is working collectively against political Islam. So I really wonder how the regime of Mr. Erdogan will, in the beginning he was quite hot with it, but I think he dropped the idea at the end. Probably someone told him that they are deeply and deadly against Islam. So probably he changed his mind and said, "Oh, sorry, we are at the wrong address." So I don't think that Shanghai Cooperation Council organization is something which Turkey would contemplate in the future. But one thing is sure, that Turkey is more and more lonely. Turkey is, I mean, look at the Mediterranean the last 7 months. I mean, there are all sorts of crisscrosses and alliances, both bilateral, trilateral, multilateral, developing against Turkey, by the way, against Ankara. And these developments are either technical or economic, and sometimes military. And who is next to Turkey and who is working with Turkey in this sort of alliances? Russia? I'm not sure. Russia and Ottoman Empire and Turkey next. Well, they are bitter enemies. You cannot redo history and rewrite history for the sake of the present day stakes. So I don't see any future in the Russian-Turkish partnership. It's just ad hoc again, and it will. I think Moscow is playing quite a shrewd game, but no more than this. I mean, it won't go further than that. In any case, I mean, in Syria, they are both on the different sides. So I think in connection with the question, I think what tells me when I look geopolitically speaking to today, to the region, is I see a very lonely Turkey. This is unfortunately the reality. I mean, you can count Qatar, but what is Qatar? I mean, so it's Turkey is pushed around by everybody and actually antagonizes each and every one. There are, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6 neighboring countries where Turkey has no ambassador. It's
See,
let me put it there. Yep.
Shahzod Mahmudov. Thank you, Akhtar, for your insightful remarks. I would like to ask a question. How do you think Turkey is considering 3.5 million Syrian refugees, which are in Turkey at the moment, as political pressure to the EU to prevent sanctions from Brussels to Ankara?
Well, I mean, again, I mean, it's Turkey doesn't know what to do with the refugees. Moreover, it has become over years, and by openly supporting the so-called Syrian National Army, that is the rebel army against Damascus, actually is prolonging the de facto situation on the ground. Without the involvement and initiatives by Ankara, I would say that the war, the civil war, would have stopped since some time now, because there is also a war fatigue. It's next year it will be the 10th year of the civil war. People are sick and tired of this war. So why did this war is still going on? Well, because Turkey is supporting this Syrian National Army and the irregular jihadis that itself doesn't know what to do with, and exporting to Libya and to Nagorno-Karabakh, and we hear even, I don't know if it's true, that even to Kashmir. Now, so it's I think it's a total mess. As for the 3.5 million people, some have managed to really to learn Turkish and to become, de facto Turkish. Some have been granted some 400,000 Turkish nationality. 500,000 babies were born in Turkey, and still many are tempted to cross to Greece, and continue their journey towards Western Europe, to have a better future. But again, I mean, it's there is no long-term, long-term vision on what to do with this 3.5 million uprooted people.
Question from Said Keskin. May I ask Professor Aktar about Turkish state's denial policies causing Kurdistan national liberation for universal national right to self-determination of an independent Kurdistan? Since Turkey's EU candidacy negotiations, Kurdistan National Liberation Movement changed its national strategy to have self-administration in northern Kurdistan to share power, similar to the UK, Switzerland. Until Turkey has not solved the Kurdish question peacefully, how can Turkey be a member of the EU? In other words, the Kurdish issue vis-a-vis European Union perspective of Turkey.
Well, I mean, it was, it is for the Europeans, I mean, who have declared PKK as a terrorist organization. Of course, it is, it's another matter. I mean, there are now attempts in Europe, as we know, to delist PKK from the terrorist organizations list. But the Kurdish issue, unfortunately, I should say, especially the latest moves by Ankara against the Syrian Kurdistan, Rojava, and the invasion of some Syrian Kurdish lands, it has never become an issue, despite the calls by the European Parliament, by the way, but it never reached the level of the European Council. I mean, the Council, the real decision makers. And this is why the calls by some activists and the non-governmental organizations to Germany, but not only to Germany, but some other countries who are exporting, arms to Turkey, that arms that are killing, the Kurds, be it in, in Iraqi Kurdistan or in Syrian Kurdistan or in Turkish Kurdistan, actually. So this is, but it's not, a permanent agenda item between, let me call it that way, between EU and Turkey.
Mehmet Sut, is Erdogan regime Islamist or opportunist?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably both. I mean, it's probably both. It's but it is it has some pretensions to represent the Muslim Brotherhood in the region. It has other pretensions to develop a kind of caliphate, a neo-caliphate. But does it have the the intellectual insight to talk in the name of Sunni Islam, leave the Shia apart? But so I'm not sure. I mean, I always recall to my students, I always tell to my students, there is not one single Islamic scholar from Turkey that is internationally known. It doesn't exist. There's no, I mean, they are from all over the world. You have, Islamic intellectuals, thinkers, but from Turkey, not.
From Kostas Klentus.
I see other, there is one regarding the safe third country, Yavuz.
I'm coming back to that. I'm coming back to that. I'm blending questions a little bit.
Okay, very well.
Kostas Klentus, considering the state of the Turkish economy and the military exposure, which is so expensive, why is Turkey consistently provoking Greece and Cyprus, i.e. the EU with its actions, which seem to be aimed at least to causing a hot episode, if not an open war?
Well, I mean, you know, there are different power circles in Ankara, and now through this so-called blue homeland doctrine that was invented by former admirals, you know, there is. You know, this power circle is quite strong, you know, and they are extremely pushy regarding the actions that we are all, you know, watching and you know, going through as, since the beginning of the summer in a you know, exacerbated manner, actually, especially in the Aegean and the Mediterranean. I think they have. I wonder if there is a captain in the ship when it comes to the Turkey's foreign policy, really. I mean, it's again, I mean, exactly like with the EU, it's on a daily basis. And they can say something in the morning, they can say the opposite in the afternoon, and anything can happen. So this is why I underlined the very fact that the Turkish foreign ministry is doesn't exist anymore de facto, you know, and no one is capable today to tell Mr. Erdogan to what to do and not to what to do, but the provocators are always there, you know, in you know, they are present to multiply the problems in a way, like we have seen in the Aegean and the Eastern Mediterranean. So I think it's the final aim, the mid long-term strategy, if one can call it a strategy, is to push, it's gunboat diplomacy actually, is to push Greece and Cyprus to the negotiating table. I mean, everybody is telling them, not only Greece and Cyprus, but also the Europeans and the Americans, and everybody is telling them that these countries won't sit at the table, you know, when the guns are pointed at them. They are not capable of understanding this. And I think the most, you know, meaningful and telling example was the collapse of the so-called exploratory talks that were supposed to start some months ago. I mean, they never stopped. They never resumed, actually. You know, they were stopped in 2016 because Erdogan was unhappy with Greece and cut the talks out. And the 61st, I think, round of these exploratory talks to talk about all these matters, actually, was supposed to start. It never did. So it means that I mean, you know, when to go back to Borrell and other resetters and the dialoguers, you know, I think there is no interest sitting at the table and eventually going to the Hague Tribunal and to settle things out. I'm not saying that Turkey is 100% wrong and the others are 100% right. There's no such a thing in the international relations, you know, and even in the human relations, you know, it's never 100% positive, 100% negative. So there's always a claim, but I mean, all these claims should be settled and could be settled at the negotiating table. That is, and this table, at least one part of the table, on the Turkish part of the table, is not there.
Back to the refugees again. Tracy Tony asks, what is the current status of Turkey EU safe third country agreement regarding Syrian refugees? If it still obtains two sub-questions more, have EU aid allocations, removal, resettlement, education, healthcare, direct cash support to Syrian refugees in Turkey remain stable? And Also, this is important. Will Merkel's coming departure threaten this agreement?
You know, when it comes to the safe country of asylum, I mean, it was an, it arranged everyone, especially the Europeans. I mean, everyone knows, at least, regarding within the framework of the international humanitarian law, everyone knows that Turkey is not a safe country for refugees, because Turkey is still applying the reservation against the 1951 Refugee Convention. So it doesn't accept those who are coming from the east and from the south as refugees. This is a reservation that Turkey put back in 1951 when it was acceding to the Geneva Convention. So now, this was the war, Cold War time, and no one was coming from Syria. But again, to today, all those 3.5 million people are in Turkey, not as refugees, but as, they are allowed, actually. They have a, ad hoc status. And in the beginning, they were called, visitors, simply visitors. And so I think everybody's happy with it, including the Ankara government, but because they have abused at least some of the refugees to create this Syrian national army. We should never forget this. They someday, hopefully, there will be studies and serious studies about this. But Turkey used and abused, in a way, the refugees, and is still doing so by pumping air on the Syrian civil war. So, as for the departure of Madame Merkel, no, I don't think so. I mean, it was not her agreement. Of course, Germany was very much involved in the March 2016 agreement between Turkey and the EU, but now it's run by the EU itself, anyhow. So I think it will continue, independent of Merkel being here or not.
Back to Cyprus, Barosha Marash mentioned Mary Southcott. Clearly, the embassy and politicians of Turkey interfered in the Turkish Cypriot elections, which had Mustafa Akıncı. One would have gone to reconvene Crans Montana in 2017 when a settlement for Cyprus was almost there by settlement. Interfering in this way invalidates the results. The Turkish Cypriots, some of the Kurds and Alevis voted overwhelmingly for Akıncı. Turkish Cypriots have now formed this country's Ours platform to assert their secularism and community rights vis-a-vis political Islamist in Turkey, I think she mentions. It compares with Belarus, but who cares for the existence of Turkish Cypriots that Turkey intervened in Cyprus to save after the junta coup in 1974? Greek Cypriots and Greece need more EU countries to notice what is happening inside the European, albeit divided, island. And in addition to this, another question, what Turkish Cypriots do now if the EU and Britain do not get Turkey to the five-way conference with the EU?
Well, I mean, there are several questions. Let me give share with you my personal opinion. I said in my talk that the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, which was celebrating its creation and invention or declaration anniversary on the 15th of November. I think they went there to celebrate the burial of this Turkish Republic, because it has become, through these interventions at the presidential election, open manipulation of the election. I think Ankara got the result it wanted, and now the northern part of the island, which was always a sort of colony, has become almost a de facto, province of the 82nd province of Turkey. Now, the issue is not the five-way talks or two separate states as the newly and forcefully elected president of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is pretending. I think the issue is whether the northern part will be annexed by Ankara or not. This is where we are. And unfortunately, the Turkish Cypriots are now, in minority in their own country. We know that they are, they have the Turkish the Turkish Cypriots, those who are able to obtain the passports of the of Cyprus, of the Republic of Cyprus, they have it, and their kids are studying either in the south or in the UK. This is unfortunately a very sad story, where both sides made mistakes. I'm of those who think that the rejection by the South of the Annan plan was a mistake, and now the entire island is paying and will be paying in the future the consequences of the many more mistakes that was done probably since 1959.
Following the order, another question from Shaksot Mahmudov. What domestic factors caused Turkey to focus away from joining the EU and prioritizing the Middle East as the main foreign policy priority?
It's an important point. This discussion is not widespread in Turkey yet, but it will sooner or later come, in the intellectual life in Turkey, because the government, of course, was in the 2004-5 when things have started to slow down when it comes to the EU harmonization, because the government had other plans and dropped in a way the EU works. Well, the rest of the society was not strong enough and willful enough to push the government and the authorities at the time, to not to abandon the EU process. Of course, the government was not alone to abandon it. Many Europeans, and the European Christian Democrats in particular, were busy, organizing all sorts of crusades and guerrillas to, to cool Turkey down when it comes to the full membership. Sarkozy is one of them, definitely, 2007, and many others. They were openly, pushing Turkey aside, and so as a consequence, the government dropped or slowed down the works, but the civil society, despite many declarations and all the opinion polls were showing very high approval rate of the future membership, etc. It never, including the Kurds, by the way. They were never strong enough to create a social dynamic, so to own, to create an ownership of the EU process. So it's a common failure, actually, when it comes to Turkey and of course to EU.
Again, following the order, İsmail Sözü Güzel's question. What is your opinion about Mr. Erdogan's current advisors who have been imprisoned during the time Mr. Erdogan was affiliated with the Gülenist organization, who, with the support of the West and NATO, attempted to bring down Erdogan using undemocratic means like a coup d'etat? Thank you. This has less to do with the EU, but I think it is important to frame this question as to ask you whether or not you have considered at all what was the impact or effects of the attempted coup on Turkey's relations with the EU since 2016.
Well, I mean, authoritarian, if not totalitarian, drive of the regime has accelerated after the failed coup d'état. That is crystal clear. I mean, Turkey has very quickly shifted to this Turkish-style presidential system, and this is why I gave you I wrote down and I recall the EU Council decision of 26th of June 2018, exactly 2 days after the presidential elections. The EU at the time was openly warning Ankara and saying that, if you go for this presidential system without checks and balances, without a proper division of labor and between the constituent forces of any democratic country, we will consider your membership talks differently. And this is exactly what they did 2 days later, on the 26th of June. So the elections were, you remember, were on the 24th of June, 2018. So it's intimately related, of course. And this authoritarian drive, which deepened after the failed coup d'état, and the overall control of the society and the state, which has taken place and in a rapid way after the 15th of July 2016.
Mm-hmm. Mustafa Doğal's question. What do you think Turkey must do to join the EU? And also, do you think that Turkey is honest about joining the EU? In other words, also we can reframe the question, maybe answering this one as well. But are we at the point of no return? Is it irreversible? Is it irreparable state of relations? And do the Turkish civil society have still the dynamics of pushing Turkey into a membership of the European Union?
Well, I mean, let me start with the end. I mean, neither the Turkish civil society or nor the Turkish opposition parties are mentioning the EU anyhow. Now it's a dead deal for the entire country, except not even the HDP, the Kurdish party, as it's called, labeled, is mentioning the EU issue anymore. No, this is of course, nothing is. I mean, it's not God's the decision. It's not heavenly verdict. Of course, things can change, but I don't see in the present circumstances, both in Turkey and in Europe, to make so that the Turkey's EU path will be cleared. I don't think that it will happen in a foreseeable future. And I'm talking at least 20 years, because the Europeans, Europe being Europe, I mean, they have problems, but they will continue to manage these problems through the well-known means. As for Turkey, I don't think Turkey will become a stable country, so to concentrate on its future, and in particular European future, because those institutions that were supporting and carrying this sort of policies have been destroyed. And to repair these damages to the state institutions will take much time in Turkey, so to make the country again a normal country. I repeat, a normal country. Turkey is not a normal country anymore. This is why, to go back to your one of your previous questions about these, those who talk about resetting the relations with Ankara, etc. I mean, they don't understand, they don't grasp the fact that Turkey is not a normal country with which you can sit and talk. This is this is what they don't understand.
You mean the administration, the government?
Yes, I mean, I'm talking about those who advise for sitting and talking with Ankara and solving problems and dialogue and this sort of things. They think it's a normal country with which you can sit and talk. That is not. This is irrelevant, and because the country has lost its main institutions. The country has lost its governance and its sense of politics per se. I mean, it has become totally different than than the Turkey we knew, until 2013, I would say.
Mm. Like a follow-up question to this is, of course, that like the mood in the US Congress, also the mood in the European Parliament is clearly anti-Erdogan government. And you mentioned the recent report, I think, submitted by Sanchez, suggesting and sort of not a reset, but rephrasing or reformulation of the nature of relations from accession
Yes.
to perhaps whatever you may want to call it, transactional relationship or what. What do you make of that? How realistic is this?
I briefly mentioned this in the part regarding the EU, the European Parliament-Turkey relations. I mean, the proposal of Sanchez Amor. I mean, they have no. I mean, there's no such system. I mean, either you become a member state, or you are in the waiting room as a candidate country, and so on. I mean, there's all these special relationship that were invented actually for Turkey. The special partnership, or in the early 2000s, where just they were invented, they were uttered, they were mentioned to discourage actually Turkey and which they failed. I mean, they never managed. Those who were talking about these special partnerships never managed to fill the content of these partnerships. And the same will happen. No, I'm afraid it's quite irrelevant.
Okay, we are approaching to the end of our session entirely, but there are a couple of more questions. One is about Cyprus again. Jevdet saying that the Republic of Cyprus was unconstitutionally and coercively usurped by Greek Cypriots in '63, and Cyprus Turks faced an existential threat. Why do you not recognize Turkish Cyprus' right to the national independence and the velvet divorce that all civilized nations are entitled to? Isn't it heading to that direction anyway with the intervention now after the elections?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, it's not up to me to tell the Greek Cypriots or Turkish Cypriots what to do. I'm just observing on the what is happening on the spot, and this is why I mentioned constant errors and mistakes that have accumulated since 1959. I mean, it's nothing new there, and I don't see the way things are evolving, especially in the north. I don't see any positive outcome anymore. I mean, this is over. I think the Cyprus issue, the talks, negotiation, reunification of the both sides to two federal states, and all these things are dead and buried. It's over. I'm afraid it's finished. It's we should be serious. We should be really realistic.
Two more questions and we will end up there. The Shakso Mahmudov again asking another aspect. Many neighboring countries are developing anti-Ankara mood. Turkish journalist Zaman, Amrin Zaman, Israeli journalist Exut Yari. Turkey, Israel have taken covert negotiations to stabilize the political tension between the countries. The topic they discussed seems to be the situation in Syria and Libya. And according to the Turkish delegation is headed by the National Intelligence Organization director. According to the Turkish media agency, Anadolu Turkey is trying to stabilize the relationship with Saudi Arabia as well. The reason for this, the changing loyalty of the kingdom, etc. How would this process affect Turkish-US relations too?
Again, I mean, it's exactly like the positive rhetoric vis-a-vis the EU. I mean, the loneliness of Turkey has, has become so deep that now, they have started a kind of charm operation, towards many countries, not only Saudi Arabia, but also Egypt, etc. But I mean, you can't have the cake and eat it. I mean, when I will just give you the answer of Cairo to these initiatives by Ankara. Cairo said, okay, I mean, we can talk. I mean, we don't have anything against it, but two things. One, we would also like to talk about your involvement in the Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood, tenure during Morsi time in Egypt. One, two, we would also like to talk about the presence of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood, operatives and the opinion makers and thinkers present in Istanbul and other parts of Turkey. Are you ready to talk about this kind of things? Of course not. So this is why, I mean, all these, again, this charm operations are telling me more that how desperate and lonely they are, not that something substantial is developing.
Okay, some more questions are coming in. Just brief answers, please. One is from İsmail Sözügüzel. The EU is failing, and one needn't look further than Brexit to see that the EU is teetering on the edge. Who knows which country will be next? If Macron's presidency fails also, can it be France? How does this affect the Turkish people's view about joining the EU? In other words, some sort of crackling within of the EU, which is perhaps requires small answer.
Since its inception in 1958, people are talking about the end of EU. It still didn't end, and I think the common interest and the shared interests are so big and so high that I always compare the EU to Belgium. They hate each other, but they stick together. I mean, it's the same with the EU, and I think with the present feud between Hungary, Poland on the one hand, and the remaining 25 countries will also be solved in one way or another. It's not easy, I agree. I mean, there are more and more cracks. The Central and Eastern European presence didn't fit well with the Western European, core group of countries. Yes. Yes, I mean, no one can, deny the problems. Brexit will be certainly a mess. It's coming now. It was delayed because of the pandemic. But I mean, will the EU manage to continue its path despite all these odds? In my opinion, yes, but because of the shared common interests. Which otherwise, I mean, if the EU collapsed, that will be a worldwide or cosmos-wide disaster, I would say.
Okay, two more questions and then we end. Kostas Klentus, at present, Turkey claims rights over the Cypriot EEZ for two reasons. Because it no longer recognizes the Republic of Cyprus and to defend the rights of the Turkish Cypriots. If Turkey absorbs Northern Cyprus into the Turkey, both these arguments fail and can no longer make claims over Cypriot EEZ. Moreover, it creates another international border with another unfriendly country. Where is the profit for Turkey in such an action?
Kostas is right. I think, yes. I mean, one of the reasons why, some are contemplating the annexation of the northern part is to solve the problem of the, exclusive economic zone, because it becomes the exclusive economic zone of Turkey. But the other problem is that no one will recognize this annexation, exactly like the annexation of Crimea by Russia. So the problem will continue, not only will continue, but it will multiply because it will become, and this is, I think, really a key point, that can become a very serious, clash point between the EU and Turkey, because the territory of the northern part is an EU territory.
Okay, one final question from me, then we round it up there. What briefly should we expect from the summit, December 10th summit? And whatever it is, if even the slightest hint of sanction is to be imposed, would it gain Erdogan domestically more points or otherwise?
Well, I mean, anything which I mean, to start with the end, I mean, the Turkish public opinion will be, remodeled so to point at these, bloody Europeans, who bash Turkey, and without going into details of the deals, of course. For sure, I mean, he may gain some points, but I mean, no avail. I mean, what would he do with this points gained if, in the meantime, some serious sanctions happen? No, I think the bottom line, as Bill Clinton used to say during his campaign, is economy stupid. Really, it's the financial flows that continue towards Turkey, although now they have slowed down seriously, especially the credits, the very cheap credits of the European Investment Bank or other national institutions, the development institutions in France, Germany, and other countries, they have seriously slowed down. The FDI, the foreign direct investment, has dried down, but there are still some institutions like EBRD, although it's not an EU institution, but still a European institution, which continues to feed Ankara. So I think that the bottom line is whether the Europeans are ready to make sure that the financial flows will be terminated, so to avoid consolidating the regime. This is the bottom line. I think this is the bottom line. And then, if not, I mean, there are some views in some capitals, especially in Berlin, that was in the newspapers. So it's not something, you know, hidden or secret. The former ambassador of Germany to Ankara, Mr. Erdman, you know, who stayed there over 5 years and who knows now Turkey quite well. He was talking to a journalist, I think it's Süddeutsche Zeitung or FATS again, anyhow. He was saying, I mean, we don't need sanctions, you know, anyhow, you know, the country is economically collapsing. So we don't need more to, you know, to add to it. And it's anyhow there. I mean, the collapse is there. So, but we will see how, so in that sense, Yavuz, I think the sanctions and the you know, the bets, whether they will be sanctions or not, it's not that important for this coming Friday, because the general trend is there and that won't change, you know.
Professor Cengiz Aktar, I thank you. We thank you very much for this very insightful analysis. I hope that participants enjoyed it too. There are some messages coming in. So it is time to bid farewell. But before that, of course, as I mentioned at the outset, the opportunity for family photo. Again, those who do not wish to be part of that photo could shut down their cameras. But now it's time to take this photo. I think we managed to do that. I don't get any messages from the regie, but we thank you all and hope to see you again in another occasion with another subject, maybe with the same subject. Have a good night.
Right.